Hi guys, this is Dr. G here, and in this short video we are going to talk about two reactions that are involved in hydration of alkynes. So first of all, I want to tell you that it is better if you can go and watch the videos on hydration of alkenes, because those reactions will be uh, very important in understanding the similarities and differences between hydration of alkenes and alkynes. Okay, so when talking about hydration of alkynes, we are going to talk about two different reactions of hydration for alkynes in this video. So the first reaction that we are going to talk about today is mercury 2 ion catalyzed hydration of alkenes. So as the name implies, for this hydration of alkynes, we are going to use a catalyst in the form of mercury 2 sulfate. So we are going to use HgSO4 as a catalyst. Okay, that is an important thing. And also for the hydration, we are also going to use aqueous sulfuric acid. Okay, we are going to use aqueous sulfuric acid as reagent. Okay, so similar to alkene hydration, the addition of water molecules or hydration will follow Markovnikov rule, which means if the two carbons have different number of hydrogens, okay, if the two carbons have different number of hydrogens, like a terminal alkyne, in this case you have a terminal alkyne where the right hand carbon has one hydrogen and then the next carbon has no hydrogens, right? So basically the two carbons have different number of hydrogens, which means we can categorize them as rich and poor. So if you are watching my videos, I usually categorize carbons as rich or poor depending on the number of hydrogens they have, right? So if you have more hydrogens, you are rich. In other words, we consider hydrogen as money, right? So if a carbon has more hydrogens, that carbon is rich. So if a carbon has less hydrogens than the other, we consider that carbon as a poor carbon. So when you talk about this terminal alkyne, as you can clearly see, the two carbons have different number of hydrogens, and the right hand side carbon has one hydrogen, and that is a rich carbon, and the second carbon has no hydrogen, so that is our poor carbon. So the reason why we categorize these two carbons as rich and poor is because according to Markovnikov rule, okay, in layman terms, what happens is that when you are adding hydrogens, hydrogen is like money, so it goes to the carbon with more money, or in other words, rich gets richer. So the carbons with more hydrogens will get hydrogens, and the other carbon, the other sp hybridized carbon, will basically receive the nucleophile. Okay, in this case the rich carbon received the hydrogen, the poor carbon received the OH. Okay, so basically this will give you an enol as the product. Okay, that means you have a double bond, a carbon carbon double bond, and an OH group, okay, next to each other, so we call it an enol. Okay, so the thing about enol is that it will easily uh, convert into a ketone. Okay, it will easily convert into a carbonyl group. Okay, so we call it keto-enol tautomerism. Okay, we call it keto-enol tautomerism. So basically enol intermediate will immediately rearrange into a ketone group and will give you a ketone as a product. Okay, a ketone as a product. Okay, so let's do another reaction. Okay, let's do another reaction. All right, let's take an alkyne. Okay, so one. All right, here is our alkyne. Okay, here is our alkyne, and for this reaction we are going to use HgSO4 as our catalyst, and then of course you need some sulfuric acid. Okay, so here those are our reagents, and in here what happens is that the rich carbon will get the hydrogen, and the poor carbon will get the OH. Okay, so what you get is something like this. Okay, so what you get is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, don't forget to write the correct number of carbons. I have one extra carbon, so these are the 5 carbons. And then the rich carbon gets the hydrogen, okay, and then the poor carbon gets the OH. Poor carbon gets the OH. Poor carbon gets the OH. So you get an enol as a product. You get an enol as a product, but of course the enol will convert into or rearrange into a ketone. So what happens is that the hydrogen on the OH group will go to this carbon right here. Excuse me. This carbon right here, and the double bond will break, and then the OH will convert to a carbonyl group. Okay, OH will convert to a carbonyl group. So you are getting a methyl ketone as a product. You are getting a methyl ketone as a product. So this is your end product. Okay, so this is a methyl ketone. Okay, what you had was a terminal alkene. Okay, so let's use a different alkyne. Okay, let's use a different alkyne. So let's say we have a internal alkyne, which means, you know, the triple bond is inside the molecule and it is not to a terminal. Okay, so let's say you are hydrating this particular alkyne. Okay, the reagents are the same. You need some sulfuric acid, aqueous sulfuric acid. Okay, and then you need Hg2SO4, I mean mercury 2 sulfate as catalyst. Okay, and then what you so you have a 4 carbon compound, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 carbons. So first of all, draw the 4 carbon chain. Okay, draw the 4 carbon chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are the 4 carbons, and of course identify the double bond. It is between number 2 and number 3 carbon. Sorry, this, you had the triple bond between these 2 carbons. Okay, so you are of course getting rid of the triple bond, and then 1 carbon will get the carbonyl group, and the other carbon will get 2 hydrogens. So you don't have to write anything in skeletal structures, right? So this is your product. 1 carbon will get the carbonyl group, the other carbon will get 2 hydrogens. So the difference between the previous one and this one, okay, is that I used a terminal alkene before. Okay, but in here I have an internal alkyne, not alkene, by the way. I keep saying, you know, alkene. I'm sorry about that. Okay, these are alkynes. Okay, so this is terminal, and what I have here is internal alkyne. Okay, when you have an internal alkyne, just give the carbonyl to 1 carbon and the 2 hydrogens to the other carbon. Okay, the 2 hydrogens to the other carbon. Very straightforward. Here is your lecture note again. So let's go to the next slide. So this basically explains how the ketoenol tautomerism happens. Okay, so actually the ketone product is more favored. Okay, so this rearrangement actually happens easily, and then it favors the ketone product as compared to the enol compound. Okay, so this is how it happens. So basically what happens is that the hydrogen will migrate to the next carbon. Okay, and then it will break the carbon-carbon double bond, and instead you will get a carbonyl group. Okay, you will get a carbonyl group. So that is how it happens. All right, so once again guys, if you have an internal alkyne, you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, 1 carbon will get the carbonyl, the other carbon will get the 2 hydrogens. Very easy. Okay, but if you have a terminal alkyne, that is when you have to worry about it. Okay, that means, you know, the triple bond is one of the ends of the alkyne. Okay, if you have a terminal alkyne, then of course your product will be a methyl ketone. So the rich carbon will get the 2 hydrogens, and then the poor carbon will get the oxygen. Okay, we'll get the oxygen. So basically what happens is that you are splitting the oxygen molecule like this. Okay, you are splitting the oxygen molecule like this, and then the poor carbon gets the oxygen, rich carbon gets the two hydrogens. Rich carbon gets the two hydrogens. Okay, all right, so I hope that is clear. All right, so let's talk about the next worked example. Okay, so in here I have a nice worked example for you. So I recommend that you guys pause the video and then try this worked example by yourself. Okay, and then in a second I'm going to give you the answer. All right, so in this worked example, what you have is an internal alkyne. If you have an internal alkyne, one carbon will get the oxygen and the other carbon will get the two hydrogens, right? So give one carbon the oxygen, the other carbon the two hydrogens of your water molecule, okay? Of your water molecule, and you will get your ketone. You will get your ketone. Very straightforward, okay? All right, so the next reaction that we are going to talk about in this video is the hydroboration oxidation of alkynes. So if you remember the alkene lessons, if you remember the carbon-carbon double bond lesson, okay, we talked about hydroboration as a reaction for hydration of alkenes. Okay, so in here, in alkyne lessons, we are going to use the same reagents, BH3 and hydrogen peroxide, and then we are trying to hydrate the triple bond or the alkyne. Okay, so if you remember the video lessons that I have posted before, okay, we learned that hydroboration is non-Markovnikov or anti-Markovnikov, which means hydrogen goes to the poor carbon. So this reaction basically gives some money to the poor carbon, right? It gives hydrogen to the poor carbon. So that is significant to know. All right, so for internal alkynes, you know that we don't have to worry about Markovnikov rule because both carbons have no hydrogens if it is an internal alkyne. Okay, so one carbon will get the carbonyl, the other carbon will get the two hydrogens. In here, okay, this is a symmetric alkyne. This is a symmetric alkyne. So one carbon could get the oxygen and the other carbon could get the two hydrogens. Okay, this is how you split the water molecule. Okay, so here is your product. Okay, let's say this is carbon number A, carbon number B. In here, carbon number A has received the two hydrogens, carbon number B has received the carbonyl. Okay, it could have been other way around. There is no difference. Okay, there is no difference. But the things that you have to worry about are the reagents. Okay, so in the first step, you are using BH3 as your reagent, and of course you can use furan as solvents. Okay, but in the second step, we are using hydrogen peroxide in a basic medium. Hydrogen peroxide in a basic medium. Okay, so these are the reagents, just like what we used in hydroboration reaction of alkenes. Okay, so review the videos if you don't remember the reaction. All right, so this is how it happens. Once again, if you have an internal alkyne, you don't have to worry about any Markovnikov rule. Okay, just one carbon will get the oxygen, the other carbon will receive the two hydrogens. Okay, the two sp hybridized carbons will basically split the oxygen and the two hydrogens. But if you have an if you have a terminal alkyne, things will be a little bit different. Okay, so clearly in a terminal alkyne, you have a rich carbon, and you have a poor carbon. So we learned that if you use mercury 2 sulfate, it happens, it will follow the Markovnikov rule. And the rich carbon will get the two hydrogens, and then the poor carbon will get the oxygen. We already talked about it. But the hydroboration reaction is actually non-Markovnikov, or you can say anti-Markovnikov. So in here, the rich carbon gets the oxygen. See, the rich carbon received the oxygen, and the poor carbon received the two hydrogens. So basically when that happens, the product that you get is an aldehyde where the carbonyl group is attached to a hydrogen. Okay, so the product that you get is an aldehyde. That is the difference, guys. Okay, that is the difference. So if you have a terminal alkyne, okay, mercury 2 catalyzed hydration will give you a methyl ketone, and then hydroboration will give you an aldehyde. Okay, all right, so I think I have a worked example in the next slide, so you might want to pause the video and see if you could do this one. All right, in here I want you to figure out the alkyne that will be used for the preparation of this aldehyde. So this is an aldehyde. So if you are getting an aldehyde as the product after hydration, if you are getting an aldehyde as the product after hydration, that hydration should have undergone through hydroboration. Okay, should have gone through hydroboration, which means you're using BH3 and H2O2 in basic medium. Okay, and you have to have a terminal alkyne. You have to have a terminal alkyne. Okay, that is the only way you can get an aldehyde through hydration. Okay, so this is the starting material. This is the starting material. Okay, so you have your benzene ring, and then here is your poor carbon, here is your rich carbon. But since it is non-Markovnikov addition, okay, the rich carbon will get the carbonyl, the rich carbon will get the carbonyl, poor carbon will get the two hydrogens. Okay, by the way, this rich and poor characterizations are just for your head. Okay, you can do this in your head. You don't have to write this P and R everywhere in your exam paper. Okay, with that, I hope that you understand what we learned today. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. So you guys have a nice one. Okay, take care.